Kathy's introducing me, so I can introduce John. I've known John Wittrig for about 25 years now. And over those years, I've gotten to know not only John, but his late wife Betty, his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren. In fact, the Wittrigs are about as close as you could come to a kind of extended family for us. And during all those years, it's been very fun to me. The Wittrigs have a deep commitment to good land stewardship. Besides all the water and soil conservation improvements they made on their farm, they also planted on a 3-acre parcel on the outskirts of Winfield a planting of chestnuts. Chestnut is a crop that can be grown without chemicals, without fossil fuels, without expensive equipment, and be profitable. You got some advice for me? The problem with that is, though, as soon as the land changes hands, all that can be swept away with a bulldozer or a plow. And that's where SILT comes in. Thank you, Susan. John, would you like to come up and say a few words?
If I can make it.
Okay.
Clapping. Yeah, back. Oh, put a chair up there.
Once he stands, he'll be all
I
right.
can throw it right here. Now I get to see everybody. I know I don't look it, but I'm just 49 years old.
Are you single?
Actually, I don't know which of the stories to tell. There are many stories connected here. I guess one place I could start would be that this is a special month for me and for Betty, who's now deceased. She died about 2 years ago. But 66 years ago, this month, in fact, the day before Armistice Day, that's what the old folks call Veterans Day. It was a Monday, and I was in training in Fort Meade, Maryland, in the Army Medics, and we had a 3-day weekend. Armistice Day was on Monday. We got a ride into town with one of the fellows from near D.C. that had a car, my buddy and I, Bob. And on Sunday, we knew we had to look up the bus depot in Washington, D.C., and we were just a couple of rural kids from the Midwest, and so we thought, we better find out in this big town where this bus depot is, or we won't be able to find it on Monday to go back, and we'll be AWOL. We don't want to do that. So we found the bus depot on Mount Vernon Street, and walking on down the street after we found it Sunday afternoon, we walked by Mount Vernon Place Methodist Church. There was a marquee out there, a little 2x3 sign that said, "Special program tonight for GIs and G girls." You know what we decided to do. Well, I had grown up in an Iowa farm, but I had heard a lot of accents all my life. I heard the Swiss German accents from my Mennonite and Amish ancestors. My mother didn't know any English when she started school. She knew Pennsylvania Dutch or Swiss German, whatever. We lived close to Swedesburg, and so I heard a lot of Swede talk. When we moved to Wyman in '41 to the farm that you're hearing about now, I didn't know it at the time, but the area near Wyman towards Cotter was settled by the Welsh. And so most of the kids that I was in school with at Wyman when we moved there, I was in sixth grade, were second cousins of each other. From the 5 Davis brothers and 2 Davis sisters from Wales, who settled most of the area around there. In fact, my best buddy took me to see his grandfather, Evan Davis, after the alumni banquet, or the banquet for the athletes, the athletic banquet. And Evan looked at my buddy and said, "Well, Alan, what did you have to eat?" So I loved accents. And there was a girl at this party. Well, we had a party after the church meeting that one of the older girls had invited us to. There was a girl at this party who had the sweetest North Carolina accent you ever heard. And beside that, she had long hair, nice curly hair. She was very pretty. And she was friendly. She hadn't been in D.C. very long, and so we decided to go sightseeing on Monday in D.C. Whoopee, a date for 3 of us. Well, make a long story short, we didn't take Bob along any other time. A couple of years later, we tied the knot. She always said she grew up in Greensboro, near Greensboro, North Carolina. She always said the trees in North Carolina are prettier than anywhere else in the world. Well, she kept saying that all the time we were married. We had 3 kids. 2 of them are here with me, Steve and Laura. But the trees were always prettier, and that always kind of bothered me. But I didn't say too much. Well, I'm an only child, and when my folks passed away, I came into the farm. But before my dad passed first, and I became a remainder man. Some of you know what that means. That means my mother got the income from the farm, but I would inherit it eventually. She asked me to help manage what happened and everything. We were renting part of the farm at that time. And I started talking to the conservationists in Washington County, most of the farms in Washington County. I came home one day. I was still working for the VA. By the way, I put in 30 years for the best health care system in this country. And the only reason it has problems is because Congress doesn't give it enough money to make the transition when people get out of the service, to make the transition. They don't give them enough money to do that. And that's veterans benefits, and that's not the VA medical care system. The VA medical care system doesn't get enough money to operate their emergency room in Iowa City. on nights and weekends. That's why when I needed to go to the hospital, I couldn't get an ambulance to take me to the VA because they can't accept patients because Congress doesn't give enough money to have it there. Well, that's beside the point. I want to tell you about the farm. 1940, I was going to country school in Henry County. 2 miles from school, I came home, I rode my pony home, and my parents weren't there. I didn't know where they were. I went back to the neighbors were about a mile away from us, and they said, well, we saw the car go by, so they're around somewhere. They finally came home. We'd been renting. They came home. We bought a farm, a 120-acre farm near Wyman. I didn't know where Wyman was. 13 miles away from Wayland, where I knew where everybody was there. But so in '41, in March, we moved to this farm. My parents called it the Prairie Edge Farm, and it is on the edge of the prairie, and it was badly eroded. It was in bad shape. It had been abused and used. The fences were down. The buildings were falling down. The house had been built fairly recently, but it had never been painted. But there was a basement in the house and a furnace. And there was about a 4-foot-high pile of clinkers and ashes that guess who had to carry out over the next few months. The neighbors said the cockleburs were so thick that when the farmer before had shucked the corn, the horses' tails got to be 3 and 4 feet around with cockleburs.